What's up, guys? This is the Lowdown on my 1992 FXR. Here is my 1992 FXR Super Glide Custom. FXRs are pretty hot right now. I'm not gonna lie, I picked this up looking for a project, and boy was she a project. Honestly, not that bad. Mostly kind of in the looks department, but overall this bike was pretty solid. I can't really complain about it too much. So I picked this bike up from the beach area, Charleston, South Carolina, and it had a lot of corrosion just on the motor and all the metal parts. We cleaned up a lot of it, not everything, but we cleaned up a lot of it. And yeah, she's a little crusty. We called her Salty Sally because it's kind of where she came from. The owner that I think had this bike for the longest, or possibly the original owner, I'm not 100% sure, passed away, and this bike went to auction. The guy I got it from picked it up from that estate auction, got everything legal, switched everything, did a little bit of work on it, and I picked it up. And that's where we are now. Let's show you what we've had to do. So first things first, the front tire completely dry rotted. It was really bad, so we threw on a brand new front tire. We cleaned up the wheel a little bit, and this outside piece right here covering where the other rotor would go if it was dual rotor was pretty rusty. So when we took the wheel off, we actually just took the bolt out, flipped it around, and we pretty much got a brand new black face there. The brakes were actually in really good shape. I don't know if he did anything to them, but the brakes actually work pretty well. Can't complain there. The front fender leaves a little bit to be desired, but that's okay. Then the gas tank's actually not terrible. It has been painted. That definitely is not original. We ended up having to change out the gas cap. We fought this bike tooth and nail, trying to figure out why it would not stay running. Come to find out, the vented gas tank is plugged, and either the original original cap either is clogged up or was never a vented gas cap to begin with. Threw a new vented gas cap on there. Boom, she rides great. Rides for however long you want to ride. One other thing we had when we picked it up is it was leaking oil. It was leaking oil out of the sight glass there. That's a pretty common thing. Oh, look at that. Look at that majestic butterfly. That thing is huge. Beautiful colors, though. We're going to leave him alone. Look at that. He loves the FXR. Comment down below if you love the FXR. All right, back on track here. But we fixed that. That was a pretty easy fix. I think that's a Speed Merchant plug. I can't remember. A Speed Dealer. I can't remember where we ordered that from. But it's a common problem. The plastic sight glass kind of melts and leaks. The original seat, I have no idea what all this is from. Who knows? But that's how we got it. And we threw a set of our large casket saddlebags on there. It has the bag rails, and I just figured throwing the saddlebags on there would be good, because why not? It kind of covers up those ugly rails, but it puts those rails to use, pushing the bags out over the shocks, so why not? We can get some good use out of it. Thought it was good. But yeah, that's pretty much how we got her. We did clean up a lot of the motor. She's not perfect, but we did end up having to clean up a lot of them, or a lot of it. But that's pretty much how we got it. Also, while I was trying to figure out the fuel problem we were having, or the not running problem, I was wondering if it was ignition. So we did drill out the stock ignition pickup and put a replacement unit in there. Was not the problem. A little $20 gas cap the whole time, but hey, you live and learn. But most of what you see is kind of how we got it. We picked this thing up pretty cheap. We had to go trailer it. Obviously, it was not road ready. So glad I didn't even try to do that, just with the not wanting to run problem. The previous owner did not even realize that was a problem because he'd only ridden around in his neighborhood, and for like a couple miles this thing runs great. But with that dry rotted front tire, no one should have been out on the road driving, riding, whatever. So previous owner didn't even know that was a problem. No big deal. With how well it started up in the parking lot and just riding up and down the neighborhood, I knew it was going to be a good bike. Well, other than the blown out suspension, but that's to be expected. But let's crank this thing up, see what she sounds like. I've already rode it today, so she's already warm. But let's let y'all have a listen. I needed both hands started, so had to give it a little bit of fuel. I didn't feel like setting the GoPro down. I don't know how well the audio is going to come up on this GoPro, but here it is. She's running. She runs pretty good too. That's my 1992 FXR. Let's go for a ride and show you how she rides and talk about all of that. So let's hop on the bike and enjoy the day on a beautiful 1992 FXR.
Alright guys, let's talk about the FXR. We've done a walk around, I've shown you the bike. Let's talk about how it rides. Not gonna lie, the front suspension and the rear suspension completely blown out. You probably can't tell while I'm riding, but this thing we're pretty much bottomed out. The front suspension, I mean, you can tell, I don't know if you can see it right through there, but the front suspension, I can push it pretty much all the way down. Yeah, she is worn out. Now the engine, running pretty good. It runs really strong. It's happy. I think we got the carburetor dialed in pretty good. It's not perfect, but once she warms up, I mean, it rides pretty decent. I can't really complain. The frame itself, like, I understand why people love FXRs. The bike is almost creepy in a way though. You can ride it on the highway going 80, 85 miles an hour, and it's a weird calm. And this bike is just going down the road on like a rail. A Dyna won't do that. A Dyna will definitely have a little bit of movement. Now this thing isn't 100% happy at that speed. You know, if I change the motor mounts and rebuilt the suspension, it'd probably be okay. But this bike just wants to go wherever you put it. Like, I totally understand the allure of an FXR. This bike, I wouldn't necessarily say is a great example of what people want in an FXR. Most people definitely don't want this dash set up. And of course they don't want buckhorns and snake skin grips. But, you know, this is definitely an old school bike. This bike is probably how you would have seen it back in the 90s when it came out. It is a time capsule of what used to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, this bike would probably benefit mostly from someone who just wants to ride it. Someone who probably wants to rebuild the suspension, get it running pretty good, maybe dial in that carburetor 100%. I know it's close, but it ain't perfect. Clean her up, maybe paint it, and just have it as like a nice daily rider or something. I definitely think this bike could benefit from that. not super comfortable in its current configuration, at least for me. If somebody was shorter, they might appreciate this bike, but I wouldn't be able to long haul on this thing. Not in its current configuration. Doesn't mean it couldn't be done. For this bike to be as old as it is, and the brake setup is probably original, down to the pads, I'm very surprised at how well the brakes work. I'm also kind of surprised at how much this bike will accelerate. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. Last night I took this bike out and I had to go on the highway. I was able to hit 100 on this bike, and it wasn't like straining to do so. This is definitely a bike that could be like a long hauler. It definitely takes you back. It's definitely set up in a vintage chopper style. It reminds me a lot of like just those old chopper movies. And this is just like the standard bike. This isn't the hero bike. This isn't the cool, you know, on the cover bike. This is one that you see riding with all of those. And that's pretty cool. There's nothing wrong with this thing. I will definitely give this bike an A+ for what it is and how cheap it is. If you're interested in getting into the FXR game, you know, these bikes, you can find them for not a lot of money. Now, there's people out there in the performance scene snatching these things up and spending crazy amounts of money on them. The early ones come with shovelhead motors. Most of them come with Evos. There's people putting Sportster motors in it, which is still an Evo, but a Sportster motor, twin cams, and even M8 motors in these things now. This is a much more desirable frame than the Dyna. It's just an older chassis. But I think these things are going to go down in history as an amazing bike. They did not get a lot of love in the beginning, and that's why it's a lot more difficult to find them nowadays. But out of the 80s and 90s, I think this was the best small cruiser Harley made, and it was probably one of the least popular. That's just how it goes sometimes. They definitely have a cult following now, and I think these bikes are just going to go down in history as an amazing bike. Hell yeah. But I hope you enjoyed this video about my FXR. It is a little bittersweet because as I'm filming this, it's actually probably its last ride with me. I got somebody coming to look at it tomorrow. I've got a lot of things I'm working on business-wise, and I just need some cash to do it. So I sold my Dyna. I'm going to sell this FXR. I hope to get one day again. The reason why I'm selling this one is I need something for the business, and what I want to do with an FXR isn't necessarily going to reflect the business as much as what I would do with a newer model Dyna. So to further my business and further myself, I'm gonna need to go that route. Other than that, I would love to keep this FXR and just not spend a lot of money on it. Just keep it comfortable, or make it comfortable for that matter, and just keep it rolling and kind of turn it into a bike that I'd love to take back and forth to work every day, and just maybe on small local trips and some solo stuff. But I'm not quite there yet, so we're gonna send this bike on its way, hopefully. We've had a lot of fun with it. I hate to see it go, but it's gonna open up some doors for me, hopefully. So if you like this video, hit that like button. I greatly appreciate it. Comment down what you think about FXRs. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. And as always, keep it wretched.